He didn't even look at me when he said it. The boy needs it more than you. Just like that, a lifetime of loyalty, love, and blood reduced to a sentence that sounded like a verdict. My father sat behind his mahogany desk, eyes fixed on some invisible point behind me, avoiding mine. His new wife stood nearby, clutching her son's shoulder as if shielding him from me. I didn't argue. I didn't even blink. I just smiled, a small hollow curve that meant nothing to them but everything to me. When I walked out of that room, I left as the disinherited daughter. But I also left as something else, a strategist. When my father remarried, I was naive enough to believe he was lonely, not blind. She came with a silk voice and careful smiles, the kind that conceal teeth. Her son, Daniel, was polite, quiet, unassuming, the kind who knew how to disappear in corners and listen. At first, I tried to accept them. Family dinners filled with forced laughter, her perfume thick enough to hide the scent of deceit. My father was happy, or so he thought. I wanted to believe it, until I noticed how our accountant suddenly started calling her for approvals. How Daniel's college fund came from one of my father's joint accounts, mine and his. Small things at first, then larger ones. Property transfers, signatures, power of attorney. It didn't happen overnight. Betrayal rarely does. It's built in whispers, in papers signed when you're not looking. When I finally confronted my father, he said I was overreacting, that I didn't understand how families work. He looked old, tired, manipulated, but I didn't pity him. He'd chosen this, so I stopped arguing and started watching. The first thing I did was call our family lawyer, Mr. Harland. He'd handled my grandfather's estate and had always liked me. Said I had my father's mind, but not his weakness. When I walked into his office, he looked at me over his glasses and said, "You already know, don't you?" I nodded. He sighed. "Your father changed the will 6 months ago. The majority of the estate, your grandfather's inheritance, is now under Daniel's name. But," he hesitated, "your grandfather left a clause, a contingency one." I leaned forward. "What kind of clause?" He smiled faintly. "A truth clause. If your father's heir, whoever he names, is proven to have obtained assets through manipulation or fraud, the inheritance automatically reverts to you." The words sank in slowly. My grandfather had seen the kind of people that could circle wealth like vultures, and he'd left me a weapon, buried under signatures and deception. All I needed was proof. It took months, late nights, quiet conversations, copies of documents that should have never existed. I traced payments from my father's accounts to her private one, caught forged signatures, backdated authorizations. But what I found last, an email from her to Daniel, was the masterpiece. Once it's transferred, we don't owe him anything. He won't live long enough to notice. They weren't just taking his money, they were waiting for him to die. The day my father collapsed from a heart attack, they cried louder than anyone. I didn't. I held his cold hand and whispered the only truth that mattered. "I'll make this right." At the reading of the will, the room smelled of paper and perfume. She sat next to Daniel, both dressed in black, both looking appropriately heartbroken. I sat alone. Mr. Harland began reading. Her eyes flicked toward me when Daniel's name came up, smug, certain. Then Harland paused, looked at me, then at them. "There's a problem," he said. Her smile faltered. "Problem?" He adjusted his glasses. "Under Clause 14, the Truth Clause, the inheritance reverts to the original heir if fraud is proven. Miss Harris has submitted evidence of embezzlement and forgery involving these accounts." He placed a folder on the table. Emails, bank transfers, signatures. Her face drained of color. Daniel looked at her, confused. "Mom?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Mr. Harland continued, calm and deliberate. "As of this morning, the estate, Properties, accounts, and shares legally belonged to Miss Harris. Silence filled the room, heavy, irreversible. I didn't look at her. I looked at Daniel, the boy who needed it more. His face was a portrait of disbelief and maybe, for the first time, guilt. I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked out. Outside, the air felt lighter, the kind that follows a storm that's been waiting too long to break. People think revenge is loud. It isn't. It's quiet, methodical. It's a smile you give in a lawyer's office when the truth finally steps into the light. I didn't destroy them. They did that themselves. All I did was open the door and let their lies walk out first. And as I watched them crumble from a distance, I whispered the same words my father once told me, only softer, sharper, and truer this time. He needed it more than you.